John, in the past couple of weeks, the president has lied about being at Ground Zero the day after the September 11th attacks, falsely claimed he saw the Pittsburgh Bridge collapse, claimed his grandfather died in the hospital days before his birth. What is going on with the president? Is he just believing things that didn't happen did happen, or is he just randomly making stuff up?
The president was deeply touched and honored to be able to spend 9/11 with military members there in Alaska and some families, and was honored by their presence and the chance to make an important set of remarks about why we need to continue to remember that day, and he did that, and he spoke about a visit to Ground Zero, which he did participate in about a week or so after the event. And what that looked and what that smelled and what that felt like. And it had a visceral impact on him, as it did so many other Americans on that terrible day. And he's focused on making sure that an attack like that never happens again, which is why we've improved our over-the-horizon counterterrorism capability and why we continue to hold terrorist networks accountable. And it's why he spent so much time last week shoring up our national security interests in a vital part of the world on issues that aren't necessarily tied to terrorism, but very much tied to our ability to secure peace and prosperity there and around the world.
He's had a string of saying things that happened, things that are easily debunked.
Karine, can you describe how President Biden reacted to the impeachment decision by the
I don't have anything to share about the president's reaction to this. All I can tell you is the president's focus on the American people, hardworking American people. You'll see him in a few minutes when he speaks to his cancer cabinet, and then you'll certainly hear from him tomorrow with the Bidenomics.
You listed a couple things, the deal that the Republicans are now not supporting, obviously the impeachment. You say you look forward, or the White House looks forward to working with the Republicans. How do you see that happening? How does President Biden plan to work with Speaker McCarthy?
So look, for the past 2 years, this president has gotten a lot of criticism in not being able to work in a bipartisan way with Republicans on the other side of Pennsylvania. I mean, we've heard that over and over and over again, and he has been able to do that. And as you know, the political climate is tough. We're in a different political climate, probably one that we haven't seen in this fashion for some time. And the president has been able to do that. He's been able to push incredibly key historic pieces of legislation that's going to change the lives of Americans. When you think about the bipartisan infrastructure law, you think about the CHIPS and Science Act, you think about the PACT Act, all important pieces of legislation. And that's just a few. There's been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pieces of legislation that have been done in a bipartisan way that the president has signed this past 2 years. So it can still be done. It really, truly can. We're talking about this moment in time, right, that we're seeing from Congress. Of course, we're going to call it out. Of course, we're going to ask, as it relates to certainly the budget, of course, we're going to say to them that they need to do their jobs. And so we've seen it over and over again. Well, this president has been able to do things in a bipartisan way. And let's not forget, one of the things that we saw from the midterm results.
You waited all this time for this.
Good morning. Just very quickly, how do you justify this impeachment inquiry without holding a full House vote?
Oh, easily, because Nancy Pelosi changed the rules in precedent. But let's walk through why. And let's walk through what an impeachment inquiry is, okay? An impeachment inquiry is simply empowering the House to a greater level to get the documents they need to answer a question. So what it is how do you answer a question? Now, first of all, what is the question? Well, let's walk through what we know today and why it transferred just in the last little bit. We do know that an FBI informant has alleged to the FBI many years ago that the vice president, that there was a bribe and that you wouldn't find the money because of shell companies. We do know now the Biden family created 20 shell companies. We do know now that $20 million went to them. We do know now what President Biden told the American public was not true, that he never talked to his son about his business dealings. We do know now, based upon the testimony by Hunter Biden's business partner, that they were selling a brand, that the vice president would get on phone calls, that Hunter Biden went on 12 trips, international trips, with then vice president. We do know that he went to meetings, and when he went to these dinners, the son got a new Porsche. He got more than $3 million moved and transferred. We do know now that when the shell companies got paid, 9 members of the family got paid. We do know now that the government, while it was investigating Hunter Biden, was treated differently, the Biden family. That they let the statute of limitations run out. And we do know from IRS workers who came forth is that's not how the IRS works. So you have all these questions, and to be able to get the answers to those questions, you're going to have to subpoena certain documents. All that impeachment inquiry does is provide Congress the opportunity that if someone fights Brian Downey, we also learned. Let me finish the answer. The other thing we learned just in the last couple of weeks, that Vice President used a pseudonym for emails. That 5,400 of those are in the archives. That President Obama gets to determine whether the House is able to look at those. We do know from seeing one of the emails that the staffer sends an email to Vice President Biden and to Hunter Biden and referring to his upcoming conversation with the President of Ukraine. At this time, Hunter Biden is on the board of Burisma, a Ukrainian energy company that Hunter Biden was selling the brand to while he was put on, who Hunter Biden acknowledged he had no experience in energy and why he was only put on there because he was Joe Biden's son. We do know President Biden, in his own words, told the American public that he withheld $1 billion of taxpayer money to Ukraine until they fired the prosecutor. And Hunter Biden's business partner then has now informed us in the last weeks that there was a lot of pressure on them to do something about the prosecutor. We have also learned that Nancy Pelosi changed the president of this House on September 24th. It was withheld and good enough for every single Democrat here. It was good enough for the judge. Why would it have to be different today? What we've learned in the last couple of weeks, wouldn't you want to know the answer to? Your whole job is reporting. You now have an accusation that the president took a bribe. You do know from your own reporting, from your own station, that they were selling a brand. You do know from your own reporting from CNN that the president went to and did conference calls, that the president went to lunches and dinners, and just the dinners, and Hunter got a new Porsche. He got 3 points for the vote. But that's my question to you. Why don't you ask the other questions? Why don't you? I'm curious why you changed your position. I never changed my position. You told Breitbart 12 days ago. You know what's interesting? So you don't care about any of the answers. You were very interested. Yes, I answered your question.
Speaker McCarthy, on the timeline, how quickly are you looking for this impeachment inquiry to move? And the White House says that thousands of pages of financial records have already been turned over. So what more do Republicans need to prove and provide hard evidence of any possible wrongdoing?
You used any possible wrongdoing. If you had an FBI informant alleged someone was bribed and they used shell companies, how do you prove that? You'd have to get the documents. If you have a staffer that worked in the White House saying the president approved Burisma talking points, you have facts there. We don't have any of the credit card statements from all the credit cards from this shell companies. We don't have the president's bank statements. We don't have Hunter Biden's bank statements. Providing information like that would answer the question. All we're looking at in an impeachment inquiry is answering the question.
And then the timetable, how quickly are you looking for this impeachment?
Well, I would think the White House would want to answer these questions rather quickly. If someone was accused of a bribe, if someone was accused what they said, I don't know if CNN asked the president the question, why did he tell the American public he's never talked to the Hunter Biden? When now we know that he had about the business partner. Why don't CNN ask the president when he sat down for that dinner with Hunter Biden and the oligarch's wife from Russia, did he know his son was selling the brand? Did he know the family was going to have a $3.5 million payment the next day? Did he know when he had that dinner with his son who was selling the brand that he was going to get a Porsche? Did he know when his son was sitting on the Burisma board and the staff sent an email, why did you use a different name than your normal name when you were going to talk about your work with the president of Ukraine? Would CNN ask the president when he withheld $1 billion to get rid of the prosecutor? Would CNN care about if that
North
was-
Carolina, Miss Fox for 5 minutes.